We turn now to the government shutdown, now in its fifth day. House Speaker Mike Johnson joins us from Capitol Hill. Good morning to you, Speaker. Anyone up there to negotiate with?
There's not, Margaret. Good morning. Good to hear your voice. It's kind of quiet around here. It has been for the last several days, and it's very unfortunate because as we're talking, real people are being adversely affected around the country, and some in very substantial ways. I pray that more Democrats in the Senate will come to their senses and do the right thing. And when they have the next opportunity on Monday to vote to open the government, I surely hope that they will.
Well, you did send your lawmakers home to their districts, which suggests we've got probably another week ahead of us of this shutdown. You mentioned the real world impact. Federal workers, including our military, would miss their first paychecks October 15th or 16th. How long should workers plan to be without that income?
Well, the only person who can answer that question is your next guest, and that's Chuck Schumer, because the House did its job. The reason that House Republicans are home working in their districts, and I suspect House Democrats should be as well, is because we did that. We passed a bipartisan, very clean, continuing resolution a couple of weeks back now and sent it to the Senate. It's very important to note what was in that. It was only 24 pages in length, Margaret, and it was a good faith effort to keep the government open for 7 more weeks so that Republicans and Democrats, in a bipartisan fashion, could work together to fund the government with the appropriations process. Chuck Schumer always voted for those in the past. In fact, he did it 13 times during the 4 years of the Biden administration. But now suddenly he's commanding his Democrats in the Senate not to do it, and there's one simple reason why. They need political cover from the far left corner of the base. He's afraid, Chuck Schumer individually, ask him about it, he's afraid he's going to get a challenge from the Marxist left in his party because that's the new wave in New York. That's what this is about. Chuck Schumer is trying to show a fight against the president and Republicans, and real Americans are being harmed in the process of this political game.
Okay. Well, Democrats, as you know, want to have another conversation in regard to extending some tax subsidies that lower the cost of some health care that's purchased through the Obamacare market. To that point, though, you're talking about the politics of this. Our CBS polling that we released today shows neither party's stance is viewed as worth shutting down this government. The Democrats want to talk about the tax credits. You know, premium pricing is already being set now, even if this doesn't expire until end of the year. Your fellow Republican, Jen Kagan, said raising costs for families with little notice and potentially stripping them of access to care is simply unacceptable. Doesn't she have a point here?
There's a lot of points to be made on that, and we're ready to talk about, negotiate, and do all of that. But they're trying to create that as a red herring here right now. Margaret, this is a funding bootstrap measure, a very simple, very conventional thing that's been done here all the time. This is the way it works now. We need a little more time on the clock to finish the appropriations process. We have plenty of time to debate that very complicated issue. It's not a simple one. There has to be reforms to that subsidy because there's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse involved in it. There's 535 members of Congress in the House and Senate. There's probably 400 different ideas on how to fix that, but we need a little time to do it. We're not saying that we won't negotiate it. We're saying turn the lights back on in Congress, get troops paid, TSA agents and Border Patrol agents paid who are trying to protect us, restore the health care programs that are being stalled for veterans and Medicare recipients who are getting home health. It's all stalled now. Restore FEMA flood insurance programs in the middle of our hurricane program and WIC programs for young women. We got to get this fixed now.
But just to clarify what you were just saying, do I hear you correctly that you, as Speaker of the House, want to see the tax credit extended at a future date? Is that what you are saying?
No, I haven't staked out any position on it yet because that's not how this process works. We're in a deliberative body.
Right, I'm asking you your position because you said you would be willing to talk about it.
I'm telling you my position. I'm the Speaker of the House. What I have to do is draw consensus among 435 members of my body. I don't get out and project what the final conclusion is going to be. And I've told Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries most recently in the Oval Office with the president just 5-6 days ago, keep the government open so that we can do that job. We were always planning to do that. Again, that funding runs out December 31st. The month of October is a critical time for us to get to this, but we can't when Chuck Schumer keeps voting to shut the government down for political reasons. That's purely and simply what's happening here.
You believe you have time here, but our partner at health policy think tank KFF reported 80% of all premium tax credits went to Obamacare enrollees in Trump-won states. Red states. Do you worry at all that this stance could backfire, that waiting to talk about that tax credit could
No,
hurt you
no,
and could hurt
because-
your voters.
No, because we have time to do it. Again, the funding doesn't run out until December 31st. We're talking about a September 30th deadline that's now passed to keep the government open so that Republicans and Democrats can have that very debate. Chuck Schumer has shut it off because he needs a political argument right now. 100%, Margaret, that's what this is about. Play the tape. Play the tape of Chuck Schumer saying consistently for the last 30 years that CRs are dangerous, destructive, and selfish. He is now the captain of it. And it's on him. Republicans in the House, Senate, and the White House want to keep the government open. We have voted to do so.
But you are
Democrats
committing to have that
shutting
conversation about health care, is what I understand you saying.
It was always going to continue. They're making this up. That is a red herring. They're trying to say that this fight right now is about that. That wasn't even a fight. It's a joke. Call them on it.
Well, the director of the Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, was on another network this morning and said it is up to the president of the United States to decide when the mass layoffs will begin. He seems to be indicating the president is using those RIFs, those reduction in force threats, as leverage here. Do you know how quickly those layoffs will start?
I don't know. I anticipate it will have to be soon because Chuck Schumer turned off the funding sources, and whomever is the
Do you want
chair
that
of
as
the
leverage?
office. No, neither does the president. No, the president wants the government open. He's pleaded with Schumer and Hakeem in person in his office to do that, and they said no because they want to do this. You know what they counter-proposed? They want to spend $1.5 trillion, and they want to return hard-working taxpayer dollars to fund health care for illegal aliens. It is in their bill. Go to speaker.gov and see it for yourself. Page 57, section 2141. They're using this for political games, and it is shameful, and real people are getting hurt.
Well, I have looked at that text. It doesn't explicitly say what you are indicating, but unauthorized immigrants aren't eligible for ACA
yes,
benefits.
It does. It says very simply they want to repeal the changes that we made in the Working Families Tax Cut, the One Big Beautiful Bill. And what those changes were is it removed health care going to illegal aliens. It removed all the fraud, waste, and abuse. And the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, said it achieved the desired result. They project it'll save almost $200 billion. Chuck Schumer's proposal on page 57 wants to return that $200 billion of taxpayer funds to pay for illegal aliens and other non-citizens. That is a fact, and you can check it out on my website, speaker.gov. Don't trust me. Look at Chuck Schumer's own paperwork.
Senator Chuck Schumer is the top Democrat on the other side of the Capitol, and he joins us now from New York City. Good morning to you, Leader. I want to pick up on something the Speaker of the House was pointing to. He wants this fight to be about illegals, as he said, and I want to be specific here because we know from our research that there is no federal money that goes towards health care tax credits for undocumented immigrants in this country. The federal government doesn't fund health insurance for the undocumented. But it is also true that states like yours, New York, does provide health care for people who are in this country illegally. And their argument seems to be the money here is fungible. And bottom line is it comes out of the federal pocket. Do you want to respond to that?
You know, Johnson doesn't want to discuss the real issue, the healthcare crisis facing the American people. So he puts up all these fake lies to try and divert attention. It's his standard operation. He just is concerned with the politics. Every independent agency that looks at this says Johnson's claim is false. And just as you said, Margaret, zero federal dollars can go to undocumented immigrants through Medicare, through Medicaid, through ACA. And so we ought to be talking about the real issue here, which is that we have a healthcare crisis in America caused by the Republicans. They've barreled us towards a shutdown because they don't want to deal with that crisis, plain and simple.
Well, let's talk about the shutdown in a moment. In terms of healthcare, where you've taken us in terms of the messaging, Democrats, as I understand it, are looking for an extension of those Obamacare tax credit. I believe you'd like them permanently. You heard the speaker say we can talk about that after the government is reopened, perhaps not permanently. But do you hear any kind of opening here for a negotiation whatsoever?
Well, right now, not. Look, Johnson's not serious about this. He sent all his congressmen home last week and home this week. How are you going to negotiate
he says the
when
job
they're
is
all
in the
there?
Senate with you and Leader Thune.
Well, no, you actually need Johnson. If you're going to negotiate any agreement, you need Johnson, Thune, Trump, Schumer, and Jeffries. And the reason he sent them home is because he's more interested in protecting the Epstein files than protecting the American people from the health care crisis. We've been trying for months and months to sit down with them and have a serious conversation addressing America's health care needs. And they've refused and refused and refused. And just on your show and on other shows, when they ask him, well, will you do it in January? He says it's starting in January. He says, no, we'll have a conversation. Well, you know what? Later means never. And we've tried 45 days and 45 days and 45 days from March on. We asked them to vote on it 3 times. The Republicans in the Senate, they voted no 3 times.
That was a permanent extension.
So we need to solve this crisis.
The bill that I think you're referring to is Senator Shaheen. It was a permanent extension. It wasn't the,
Johnson
compromise
has not committed,
that some Republicans have proposed.
Margaret, Johnson has not committed to any extension, and he won't until the American people force him to. And it doesn't, and by the way, the crisis doesn't start in January. 2 days ago, starting October 1st, millions of Americans are getting notices that their health care premiums are dramatically increasing. If you're a 55-year-old couple and you make $80,000, you know how much your premiums will go up if we don't extend it? It'll go up something like $25,000. The average American will pay $900 more. How do Americans who are struggling, sitting at the table Friday night figuring out how to pay the bills, how the heck can they get such an increase? Democrats are simple. We want to extend it, and so they won't have to pay that increase. And Johnson does not want to do it. He's just not serious about it, as exemplified by him sending the House home for 2 weeks. You need to be here to negotiate.
All right. You're using the word extend versus making permanent, just making clear there. And then the number we see is the average is an increase of about $1,000 in premium payments for most households that will go into effect. But
and it's horrible.
On the reopening everything conversation, sir, though, I mean, do you trust Leader Thune? And when you look at just your numbers here, 3 senators already crossed over to vote with Republicans on this short-term funding deal. Are you concerned about more defections?
Look, it's a Republican shutdown because they've refused to talk with us. Johnson, I saw him mentioned that we did it 13 times when I was majority leader. That's true. You know why? In every case, we sat down and talked with the Republicans, and there was a give and take, and then both sides didn't get everything they wanted, but we got it done. They have refused to talk to us even once.
Well,
and Jeffries and I have been trying to get them to talk to us for they've tried to get to us to talk to them for, we've tried to talk to them for months and months and months, and they said no. The American people know that they're in charge, Republican president, Republican Senate, Republican House, that they have a responsibility to govern, which means sit down and talk with us so we can address these needs.
But back to the question of defections. Leader Thune was on another network, on Fox, and he said that there are conversations with Democrats who want to find an off-ramp here. Is he having conversations with Democrats other than you? Are you sure you can't?
I've encouraged Margaret, I've encouraged my Democratic members to sit and talk to Republicans. It's always good when Democrats and Republicans talk to each other, but 2 points. First, in those conversations, the Republicans offered nothing. But second, the only way this will ultimately be solved is if 5 people sit together in a room and solve it. And they are the president, who also doesn't seem serious about this. You know, he's putting out his memes and his things with the Grim Reaper and all of that stuff. He's playing golf. Johnson's not serious. And so we've got to sit down. For the 5 of us, that's the way to solve this problem. But when Democrats talk to Republicans, it's a good thing. And I've encouraged my Democrats to do it, but they've offered us nothing, no change.
Have you tried calling President Trump? He seems to take phone calls.
Well,
directly.
You know, we tried to get President Trump to sit down with us weeks ago, long before the shutdown date started. He said yes. He said no. Johnson told him to say no. We sat down, the day before, and he wasn't serious. He put these red hats on the table, and he's joking around. And honestly, in the meeting, Margaret, I got the feeling he didn't even know what was happening, that the crisis was impending, that people would pay such a... He once said, they're going to pay all that. That would be bad for me. And so the court here is the American people. The American people are hearing what's happening, and they are demanding that we address this crisis. They are demanding we sit down together and do it. It's just logical. They say that, you know, in your survey that you put out, they say that 75% people feel Trump isn't doing enough. Another survey by the Washington Post showed that not only do 80% of the American people want us to extend these credits, but 55% of Trump voters.
Well,
and the American people are right now talking to their senators, you know, talking to their congressmen. They're telling them, get this done. We want to get it done.
Our CBS polling also shows that neither side is getting good grades on any of this, Leader. We're going to have to leave that here for this moment.